Yes, hello and welcome to another review. This time we have another horror movie, no other than Eden Lake. A pretty well-known horror movie, so if you watch horror movies you probably know this one. Yes, first of all, like always, a little DVD review. This one is of course the uncut version, like you can see. We have the really nice cover in my opinion. I really like the white color here from the side and from the back, of course. Yes, the movie goes 88 minutes in the uncut version. Here we have the DVD and also a nice little picture on the inside with them hiding and him being on top. Really, really nice. And yeah, that was basically the DVD review. Really nice DVD in my opinion. And yeah, about the movie. It actually came out in 2008, so it's already a little bit older, and was directed by James Watkins. It also has some bonus material on, which I will come later on, which are interviews, a B-roll, which is basically like a behind the scenes featurette, and also a trailer. And the Avaska is basically Spieljotka, which means like it's like one thing above 18, if that makes sense. Like the cut version is the Avaska 18 version, which came in theaters, and this is the uncut version, which just came on DVD or Blu-ray. So yeah, so you probably already know that it's pretty brutal if you don't know the movie. Yes, what is it about? I'm going to explain this a little bit, and like always, a spoiler alert here. The movie opens actually in primary school, and it turns out that Jenny, is a primary school teacher, and that Steve, her boyfriend, played by Michael Fassbender, takes her, like they are a couple obviously, takes her on like on a holiday, like on the trip, and actually to Eden Lake, which, yes, it's the name of the movie, but it's basically like, yeah, it's a lake, like the name says. And yeah, on their way to Eden Lake, they already have their first encounter with the kids with bikes when they were at red light. That's the first time we actually saw them. Then they go into an hotel, and where they actually see one of their moms already. I actually noticed that. Then the next day they're going to Eden Lake to chill, obviously, to enjoy their holidays, and that's where they have the second encounter with the teenagers. But this time they actually have a dog, and they also have their first talk because Steve actually feels really interrupted by them because they blast their music, and he goes up to talk to them, and they're really disrespectful, and yeah. Then they actually sleep overnight there in the woods in their tent, and they actually hear screaming, which is basically like the first warn sign, in my opinion. The next morning, they actually have a hole in the tire, and Steve gets really angry. They going to eat breakfast, where actually the second sign comes that they should get the hell out of there, which was the waitress. Steve actually talked to her and asked her about if she knows any kids with bikes, and she says yes. And she basically gets scared. You can see it in her eyes, and she says like, "They are not my kids." So that's definitely the second one sign. There's definitely something wrong with them. Steve also finds their house on their drive back, and he makes some stupid decision and decides to go in there. And yeah, and the guy, the leader of them, of the teenagers, which is named Brett, his dad actually comes back, so Steve has to escape, and they're going back to the lake. Then afterwards, they actually get a car stolen from the teenagers, and from there on, it actually goes into a rampage because Steve and Jenny find them at the at the night at the campfire, and he accidentally kills their dog. um, they don't get the keys and drive away, but actually have an accident, and Steve gets captured, and Jenny hides overnight. She also should have just run away, but like I get why she would look for her. I mean, she's a boyfriend, you know. But yeah, then she actually finds them, and she sees Steve getting tortured, which is actually a really good scene and one of my favorite scenes because it's actually really, really brutal and really nice made. Basically, like every one of the teenagers has to cut him because Brad says so. So everyone is an accomplice to him. Then the hunt after her actually starts. Steve escapes, and she finds him. Then I hide in a, I think it was in a, what was it? Um, like a cabin, and he actually dies because he loses too much blood. She then runs away and actually meets a kid, which was earlier in the movie, who got bullied by Brad and one other kid. And he actually leads her back to them because he probably got blackmailed by Brad. Like we don't know it, but he probably got. And yeah, they actually burn Steve, but Jenny escapes, and Brad then burns the kid alive, which is one of the most horrifying scenes I actually ever seen in a movie because they made this look incredibly real, and the screaming of the kid makes this scene 10 times worse. It's really, really well made, to be honest. Definitely not for everybody. Um, she then escapes, and she kills the youngest out of them, who actually was the only one who tried to who had some kind of conscience and trying to help her. Um, the teenagers then find his body, and one of the kids is actually crying over his body, and I think he wanted to call the police, but Brad stops him and basically beats him to death. We don't know if he's dead, but considering how hard he actually beat him, I think he died that in that day. And then Jenny escapes, but there's actually a car coming, and it turns out it's the brother of a kid. And Jenny then steals the car and drives over the girl. Like there was also a girl teenager who was incredibly annoying. So that scene was actually really, really satisfying. I enjoy this every time I watch it. But she sadly has a car accident, and she then goes like in complete shock to a random house, and it turns out it's Brad's house, which was such a great twist the first time I watched it. I really didn't expect it because I don't know, I expected to have a happy end considering Steve already died, you know. But yeah, then we come into the ending, and the bathroom scene, which is actually one of the worst endings I've ever seen in a horror movie or in a movie in general, like in a good way. Like it's so savagely made from the director, that ending. It's really, really well done, and yeah, that's basically the movie because I actually don't want to spoil that ending because you really should see this movie. It's incredibly good. And yeah, I think that was all for the movie itself. And I wanted to also address some other points. One of them being basically Brad's abuse, or like his dad's abuse, because there's a reason he actually turned out like that. And we saw that his father actually was in jail, and he definitely had an impact on him, and definitely beats him every day. So yeah, and we also saw out of the whole movie Brad actually torturing animals. So yeah, that's actually the one of the first signs that there's definitely something wrong with you. And yeah, yes, the movie had some really, really gruesome scenes and really brutal scenes, which I personally really enjoyed. So I think that's really, 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 really nice made. Also, one thing which I wanted to address was which makes this movie so like outstanding of other horror movies, it's that the murderers or the murder it's not some random serial killer or some supernatural thing, you know? It's freaking kids. It's teenagers, and that's what makes this movie so horrifying, in my opinion. Like, it's reality, even though we as humans don't want to hear it. This is reality. There are kids who are that sadistic and effed up and who would do that, and who also probably did something like that sometime in their life. So that's what makes this movie actually like incredibly real. And yeah, also the effects were amazing in this movie, like the blood and the makeup. Everything was incredibly well made. Also saw the B-roll afterwards, like the behind the scenes, and it actually turned out that they actually used almost no CGI. I think it probably is like 99% practical effects, and I really miss that in movies, to be honest, especially horror movies. I really miss that. But yeah, that just shows that this movie is so well made. And yeah, to the acting was a straight up 10 out of 10. Like you really can't act any better in a horror movie, in my opinion. Kelly Whaley, which is her, or Willie, I don't know if it's Kelly Whaley, I think it is. She was phenomenal, as well as Michael Fassbender. That's actually one of his first roles. He's really incredible actor. Literally everyone was incredible in this movie. The story itself, which I think it's incredibly well idea and really well made. Also liked the soundtrack, and overall definitely enjoyed this movie. So you're probably wondering what my rating is, and you'll probably be surprised considering how much I loved this movie and how much I just praised it, because I literally didn't say anything bad. But the reason this movie actually gets just an 8.1 out of 10, which is still a great movie, is because I can't give this movie a higher note. I actually thought about this a lot, because this is not the first time I watched this movie. It's actually I think it's the 5th time actually, or the 4th time. At least the 4th time. And I can't give it more, because what this movie makes to you is, I don't know how to say it. It's the director himself actually says it's a psychological thriller. Yes, it's a horror movie, but it's more psychological thriller. And this movie really fucks you up. Like, no cap, this movie really, it messes with your head, and the ending is so savage that you literally don't want to see this movie for at least a year, never again. Which also why I literally can't watch this movie 2 times in a year. It's just that, yeah, you can say it's, then why aren't you giving it 10 out of 10? Because it's not really 10 out of 10. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, it's probably like the my personally enjoy factor and the rewatch factor, which is actually pretty important for me, and that has this movie not. And also some decisions in this movie were questionable. Yes, you could defend them, but I don't know. Some of it was maybe a bit far-fetched, but it's still, like I already said, it's a movie which could be based on real facts. And yeah, that's sad, because that just shows how effed up our world is. But yeah, that was my review to Eden Lake. This one was a little bit longer, because I had to say more about this movie because it's incredibly good. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little review, and if you watch this movie, please let me know what you would rate it. That would actually really interest me. And yeah, that was it. I hope I see you in the next one. See you then.
Wanna see you in slow motion. Come stay the night, we can stay up till it's bright. In the morning, got the top open. Come take a ride, we can go where you like. I wanna see you in slow motion. Come stay the night, we can stay up till it's bright.